Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Happy Thorsday to all who celebrate. Thor Nystrom from FantasyLife.com, the sports dad in the house. I am Phil Mackey. And boy, all of the key stakeholders spoke yesterday at Twin Cities Orthopedic Performance Center. Judd was there slinging some questions. So we're going to get into JJ McCarthy starting his season back up, Kevin O'Connell's current position as a quarterback whisperer and what he intends to do. And Positive Phil has a question for you guys that we can lead the show off with here. But two things, Judd. This weekend here for this game against the Lions, JJ McCarthy's return, we are going to make our debut at Mystic Lakes Hop House for a watch party that starts at 11:30 a.m. and a live Vikings vent line right after the game is over. This is free and open to the public. We would love to see as many of you as possible come hang out with us and watch the young Vikings quarterback restart his career against Detroit. We're super pumped, Judd.
And in fact, Sports Dad has an idea, not just for Sunday, but for the weekend, because get this, you could stay on Saturday night, make a weekend of it at their luxurious hotel at Mystic Lake, come downstairs around 10 or so to the Hop House, enjoy a delicious Bloody Mary, and then schmooze with us. What better way at Mystic Lake?
And then you could even ask the sports dad while you're schmoozing, hey, the football game's great, this is awesome, but my HVAC system is a little outdated. Judd, what advice do you have for me, sports dad?
Well, I would tell you very simply, a sports dad, a chill might be in the air, but that should not be a scare, because MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air is there for you. This is the perfect time to get your HVAC system checked. Why? Because right now it's troubleshooting. Like you're getting it checked out for winter, right? If you don't, what happens? The darn thing goes out. Now it's expensive, and worse yet, you are freezing cold. MSP, by the way, is your local Carrier dealer, delivering quality and reliability. And when you choose Carrier, you're investing in a system that keeps your home comfortable, and also, the most important thing again, saves you cash. Check out their website, call MSP.com, give them a call, 651-615-4292. And also learn more about not only the great work that they do, they've been in my home, by the way, to do that work, but also about the Carrier products.
All right. So Thor, I mean, we're going to get into the weeds on a lot of things here, but Thor and I were actually talking yesterday, and I said I was sitting here, all the negativity, Vikings are 3-4, you know, our guy Alec Lewis talking about at The Athletic, just an underlying tension in the building. 18 months, we've barely seen McCarthy. Negative. But Positive Phil has a question for you guys. What if they win on Sunday and JJ McCarthy looks pretty damn good? Like no one's talking about that possibility at all going into this weekend. It's all doom and gloom. They're like 9-point underdogs. But like, what if he plays pretty damn well and they go in and they beat the Lions? Can we account for that possibility, or is Positive Phil going to be struck down by lightning?
I think we can account for the possibility. It's a quarterback that doesn't lose in the state of Michigan coming back for the Vikings. But no, in all seriousness, it is a single-digit spread. And if you can pull that upset and get back to 4-4, next game you host the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's back. Obviously, they haven't played very well, though. And then you're hosting Chicago. McCarthy's already beaten Chicago on the road in his NFL debut. You could potentially start to, it could be interesting if you do. People are saying the season's over. That's probably not true until you lose on Sunday. So it becomes a pivotal game for this season as far as the hopes with that go.
So this is an interesting question, because I think the response is this. If he plays well and they win, we still need to manage our expectations for what this means. Like, to me, my whole thing is this is a 10-game runway for to see him play. I think we need to be, and this includes O'Connell, and I think he knows this. I think we need to be realistic about what we expect to see over hopefully 10 games. And so if they win, that's awesome. That's great. I think the worst thing that we could possibly do, though, is say, oh, he played really well. He won. That's the expectation. They're going to win 8 games now. They're going to make the playoffs. I think we need to take it. I mean, I hate to say this because it's no fun, but I think we need to slow roll this, because you know what? If he plays great against Detroit, doesn't mean in a couple of weeks he won't struggle, because that's how it works. It's up, it's down, it's back, it's forth. And so I think it's very important. And again, people are going to hate this because it's boring. I think it's very important that we manage expectations. And really the most important thing is, as we've said many times right now, is that we just get to see him play for 10 games. And that's the diving board, right? That's the jumping off point. And that you go into 2026 saying, okay, I can see the potential here. This is on the upswing.
For sure. And obviously we need to see McCarthy healthy the rest of the year. Yep. I'm more concerned about the rest of the roster letting McCarthy down, or his health letting him down, than I am vice versa. McCarthy letting the roster down. Hopefully, as far as the injuries go, we're just like every week, we're still waiting on the status of some of these guys. So hopefully we get good news here as we move in on game day. But it's really exciting to have McCarthy back and to be playing for something again. Right. I mean, the future of the franchise, if not the short term, we'll end up seeing, McCarthy comes back this thing. You're 3-4 now, and you're now playing the NFL's hardest strength of schedule the rest of the season. You start out the gauntlet here in Detroit. Not very easy, but it's exciting because the Vikings, they're finally moving towards something again. The development of the young quarterback, and we'll see if they can put a scare into the Lions. I don't know that I would bet on that, but I'd certainly give him a puncher's chance.
Just to move into to bring Kevin O'Connell up to the stage here as well, to bring him in as part of this conversation. Judd, what was the tone of his press conference yesterday? I mean, McCarthy's was very much classic McCarthy, super upbeat, ankle feels incredible. He kind of insinuated that he really wanted to go maybe a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago, and he was just doing what he's been told the last few weeks. So I think there's probably more behind that answer than he let out. But you asked Kevin O'Connell a question or two. You even asked him if he regretted throwing JJ out there the week that his child was born because of the lack of preparation. Mm-hmm. What was the general tone of Kevin O'Connell's comments yesterday?
I sensed some apprehension, but I think that was largely because O'Connell took the podium knowing that he was going to get grilled on Carson Wentz playing and being left in the Chargers game, which he did. It was like 10 questions. At this point, I think that conversation is now starting to bore me because we all have an opinion. We've given it. And at the end of the day, O'Connell's not going to back off his opinion and we're not going to back off ours. And so I wanted to talk about McCarthy. And the first question, because I did ask a couple. The first question that I asked is, are you going to have to adjust your play calling, not to necessarily what you want to do, but to make sure that JJ McCarthy's put in the best position possible? And he opened the door, like he didn't shoot me down. And that's another thing that's incredibly important. Now, I know that teams have played a different number of games, but right now, as far as rushing attempts go, the Vikings are last in the league. You cannot put, in my opinion, and I'm not sure what Thor thinks, you cannot put McCarthy out there and say, here's what I like to do. We are just going to aerial circus this thing. You're going to need to call plays, not just to try to win games, but to also put McCarthy in a place to learn, in a place where he can work on and best in game, especially, you guys, utilize the mechanical adjustments. Because I'm going to tell you right now, to go back to it, Kevin O'Connell and the sports data both seen the same thing, which is McCarthy on the practice field doing things that don't translate to games yet, because when you asked him to do certain things in games, it's not there yet in the National Football League. So I thought O'Connell was very open-minded towards, and again, crunch time, scripted plays are gone. Now you're in the pressure cooker. What do you do? But I thought, at least on Wednesday afternoon, O'Connell was very open to, I understand that I'm going to have to call games, not just to help myself and the team, but to help the maturation of McCarthy. I didn't sense a lot of pushback there. Do I sense a little bit of concern? Yeah, he's concerned. It's probably not ideal to have to go in during the bye week and work on fundamentals and things. But he knows what he needs to do to get the most from McCarthy. And in my opinion, you guys, those two are tied tight together. Like, this is the most important thing Kevin O'Connell, forget Sam Darnold, forget Kirk Cousins. This is the most important thing, in my opinion, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, that Kevin O'Connell will do. And so these two are tied tight together. for better or for worse. And I think Kevin O'Connell understands that, Thor.
Yeah, he sure does. For Viking fans out there, you realize now Kevin O'Connell is not saving you. Carson Wentz, of course, isn't saving you. A Kwesi transaction is not going to save you. McCarthy's it, right? And so the bunker down here with me, which was lonely for a while, we've gotten cozy now because the entire Viking fan base, I think, is starting to get it. If the Vikings are right and if I was right about JJ McCarthy, this isn't going to be, you're still right on track. If we're wrong, everyone in that building's getting fired and we're in for a nuclear winter type rebuild. So that's it. You have hitched the wagons to the kid. You have to now see it through. Obviously, I could not be more bullish on McCarthy. The roster itself around him, I think we were all wrong about that aspect of it. And hopefully that doesn't have a deleterious effect on McCarthy's play down the stretch. We'll have to see how the offensive line is, all the different iterations of the offensive line. I think the stat was the Vikings have used 3 more combinations of offensive linemen than the next highest team, the 5 guys out there. And so hopefully a little continuity can be found there. But the other thing I wanted to say is the injuries and the injury messaging this year with the Vikings befuddles me. And I don't care about the Carson Wentz, the last game thing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the messaging from the start. And I'll even actually start with another position and not quarterback. Offensive tackle. Christian Darrisaw, there was the timeline that we had been given, and then in July or August, now they're expressing optimism that he'll play in the opener. He could be back. Then he doesn't end up playing. His game time decision questionable for those 2. Then he comes back. You had a full game in there. Then he's missed game. Then it's partial game, pitch count. The status is changing every single time, but it's all regards to the same injury. There's no clarity on it. Week in and week out, it just seems like it's frivolous, like up in the air, up in the wind or whatever. The Brian O'Neill as well, the status there. And then, of course, the McCarthy thing. I still don't understand why Kevin O'Connell just right at the get didn't, to the questions, he's at the pressers and stuff. Say, the kid suffered a high ankle sprain. My starters, team captains don't lose their job to an injury. It would have saved you from a month of rampant speculation out there. And then the speculation only continued and furthered when the time, the 4 to 6 week timeline, and then it's pushing more towards 6. If you had just clarified the injury status when you were asked about the friggin' injury, as opposed to going back every single time to bring up that the kid missed a practice to be at the birth of his first child. That whole thing I didn't understand. And then, Judd, you're talking about the Falcons game. If Kevin O'Connell was so concerned about JJ McCarthy's preparation in that game, then he gets injured in the late third quarter, and this team is so invested in not putting injured players out there. And Kevin O'Connell wanted to talk to people for 6 weeks about how McCarthy wasn't prepared to play in that game. Why'd you throw him out in the fourth quarter then, Kev? Why was he out there in the fourth quarter? And then, so you play him injured in the fourth quarter when you claim he wasn't prepared the last 6 weeks. But then Carson Wentz damages his shoulder, but now 95% JJ McCarthy can't play over 4% Carson Wentz. What kind of math are we doing here? And the messaging to the public, it is confusing them deliberately in a way that is opening up speculation that is not great for you, Kevin, or the organization. So I just had to say that too.
I agree with that completely. But that's why I asked the question, because O'Connell referenced the missed practice again, and he's done it multiple times. And I thought it was fair to say, do you regret playing him? Because, and here's the thing. So we have finally gotten to the bottom of that week, okay? So they play the Bears on Monday night, okay? Here's how the week went. And this is why there is a case to be made that if you were going to be that concerned about preparation, he shouldn't have played. Wednesday was a walkthrough. It was not a practice. So they basically did a walkthrough because they had played on Monday night, okay? So the only real practice of the week was Thursday. And that's when JJ missed. And, because at first I thought third down day, but it sounds like it was more. Friday was a Friday practice, which O'Connell's basically said, I dismissed that as a practice. That's more of just a preparation day. So at the end of the day, the real question is, okay, he's a rookie quarterback. He's coming off a game in which he played a great fourth quarter, but at the end of the day, he did struggle at times. And you're going to throw him in. And O'Connell also said, well, now we've come to realize that Falcons defense, which it is, it's good. He's like, now we realize that that's a pretty good defense. And so I agree with you, Thor, but there is a case to be made in retrospect, and we probably haven't talked about it enough, that, and O'Connell's response as well. He was the NFC Offensive Player of the week coming off that Bears game, and I couldn't sit him. But if you're going to be this upset about the fact that he lacked the preparation, which, by the way, you knew, like, you schedule the practices, then there is a case to be made. He shouldn't have played. He should not have. You should have started Carson Wentz in that game based on the fact that you didn't want to expose him to a situation where you thought he might fail, which, by the way, he then did.
Well, and I go back again to the messaging, and we're pointing the spotlight right at Kevin O'Connell here. That week when he goes, Judd, you were there when he's talking to the media, the Falcons week. He seemed to be in a jovial mood, of course. The Vikings were 1-0. They were coming off the road win on Monday Night Football against a division rival. Now you're heading towards the Sunday night game. And O'Connell's up there at the lectern sort of joking around of like, JJ came in and asked like if he could, miss a practice for the birth of his kid. And I told him like, JJ, you don't have to ask about that. And then he asked, he asked me like what he was talking about what he should say to his fiance, like on the way to the hospital. And it's one of the last times that we saw Kevin O'Connell lighthearted up there, but that's how he depicted it, right? Like, it's absurd that this young kid would even think he had to ask me to miss a practice for the birth of his first child. Of course he can go. And then he's brought it up 50 million times ever since then, going the other way, essentially it seems like he's casting an aspersion on the kid or making an excuse for the best read of it, making an excuse for why the offense wasn't running correctly. But hey, Kevin, if you didn't want him to miss that practice, that's the reason he was asking you, bruh. You could have said no. If you had said no, he wouldn't have gone to the birth of his kid. Stop talking about it. You could have given the injury updates during that month instead of just keep talking about that. And if it was so important to you, just say no. And you're not going to not start McCarthy the week after he wins Offensive Player of the Week. But where, for me, the point of separation here is when McCarthy suffered that high ankle sprain. It was on a hip drop tackle that was right near the sidelines. He gets up very slowly, walks back gingerly to the sideline. They tape him up. Carson Wentz is out there warming up. Why then did you throw McCarthy back out there? If he's unprepared and he's hurt, a lot of these things I don't understand. It seems like injuries and these different status things are being used by the team and Kevin O'Connell to muddy the situation as opposed to provide clarity. And I suppose that he would make the argument, well, I'm doing that for competitive advantage reasons. What competitive advantage do you have the last month and a half with the toxicity around the organization and what the public discourse became? Was that a competitive advantage for you? I don't understand some of these. Like, I legitimately don't. I don't know an explanation for them that can jive on both ends of it. So I remain a little bit confused.
Well, I want to tie what you just said. I want to tie that with something you said like 10 or 15 minutes ago to kind of put a bow on this conversation. I do think that they were led by Kevin O'Connell, unsure about who they wanted to play quarterback because I like from week to week because I think they thought their roster was going to be good enough to be like 5 or 6 wins at this point. So in his mind, he's thinking, all right, my guy just had, if Kevin could do one thing, it'd be go back 9-10 months ago and jump into the room and say, do not conceive this child. It's his week 2 in the National Football League. You guys just wait until the offseason.
What a mental image that is.
JJ, no, JJ. But he can't do that. And so I think he was, at that point, he's weighing, all right, my guy, especially after the Falcons game, he's hurt. He has a new child. We're not fully sure if he's 100% ready to do all this because he missed all the practices last year, and we think we can win games. And so let's muddy this a little bit. And yeah, like his ankle needs to be a month or a month and a half until his ankle is fully healthy. But I think they muddied it because they thought they were going to be winning more games, and it was going to be an actual decision between who is the quarterback when everyone's healthy. But to your point, like 10 minutes ago, Thor, you strip everything away now. They're under 500. The roster has been ravaged by injuries and underperforming in a lot of ways. And there is only one pillar thing that will create sustainable winning that you can replicate year after year after year, and it's a franchise quarterback. And the amazing thing about the Vikings is for decades, they've been a fairly high-level winning team. They haven't gone to back-to-back playoffs since 2008, 2009, but they've been flirting with and winning divisions. They've been an 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14 win team a hell of a lot more often than like your New York Jets of the world and the Browns who are winning 3 and 5 games, right? But the way by which the Vikings for decades have been winning games is unsustainable for long stretches. It's random one-off quarterbacks for the most part, and it's high-level defenses that pop up like 2000, even like the late 80s, 2000, the run defenses in like 2008, 2009, 2017 defense. Last year was a top 5 defense. It's really hard to win with defense at a high level year after year after year after year, because it's hard to keep 11 guys under contract, healthy, all together, all operating a system that doesn't get figured out. You have outliers. Like sometimes you get the Ravens or the Steelers that find a way to do it. But even the Steelers under Mike Tomlin, the last few years, there's periods during Ben Roethlisberger where their defense is crappy, and the reason they're winning is because of Ben Roethlisberger over the course of 15 years. So unless you have, or unless you're the 49ers who just find a way with Kyle Shanahan to put a new quarterback out every 2 years and go back to Super Bowls, the number one thing for winning at a high level year after year after year is that guy at quarterback. And the Vikings have to figure out now going forward, there's nothing muddying the water. There's one objective now starting this Sunday against the Lions is get JJ McCarthy back on track to attempt to be that quarterback for the next 10 years. And if you whiff, a lot of people are getting fired, like Thor said. But if you're right, you can then weather some bad defensive seasons. You can weather some injuries and still be in the mix to make the playoffs year after year.
Yeah, and if, you get the referendum on that as far as how you see it the next couple of years, you have an opportunity this offseason. You have 10 draft picks, and I know the cap situation right now for next season doesn't look the best if you just look at it on paper, but the Vikings retain cap space this year that they can roll over to next year. And to be kind, we have multiple veterans on this team that I think are easy cuts to open up salary cap space. So they are going to have flexibility next year. I think if there was one thing for that the way that I saw this team in the offseason that I think I was wrong about, it was of course the free agent class with Kwesi, and I think if you could do that one different as opposed to going after the some of these veterans that have been released that had the health concerns, I think obviously in hindsight looking back, you would have tried to use that money to go after younger guys, maybe off of their rookie contract, and try to build something more sustainable here, because there's a big part of this roster that's going to get churned over here. And, obviously this also goes back to Kwesi's struggles with drafting, and that's the other thing that needs to be rectified. I am encouraged that Kwesi has started to play the comp pick game, and I'm also encouraged that he's not just rote trading the picks. We do have 10 projected picks for this coming spring. That is a hallmark of, you mentioned organization like the Ravens, organization like the 49ers. Those two teams, if you added up the last 8 years, they might, and they probably do, lead in comp picks, right? And so you getting the more bullets, whatnot, you have to draft better. If they don't draft better, you're always going to have this issue where you're chasing the injury-prone veteran that you can get in because other teams are too scared by the health bill, etc. The way that you build the sustainable roster, the sustainable depth, obviously is through the draft. What I would like to, if I was the Wilfs, we would set down a time for Kwesi right after the season. I'd let him know right now, and one of those weeks in February or whatever, we're doing an audit of every one of your draft classes up until now. And what we want, because you're not Rick Spielman, you're not the guy who's at the Senior Bowl and is like, love the look in that kid's eye. I knew right then he was our guy. We were going to do anything to land. Kwesi is the let's get the temperature of the room and let's see what the consensus is and blah blah blah. And I'll make a decision on that. I want the genesis of every one of those picks that he has made to this point. I want the cork board of where did you get that one from? Who were the people in the room that were advocating for this guy that has been off the roster for 3 years, and who maybe was against it? And
Andrew Booth. I want to know who raised their hand for Andrew Booth. That's
that's
Felton,
it.
Third round.
Ty Felton, like
McCardle loved him, but why third round?
And you have a couple of those classes now that are just total washes, right? And again, I'm not saying it's all Kwesi's fault, but it seems to be this is the most generous interpretation of Kwesi's drafting, that it's a function of the way he does it by getting the opinions from those around him in the room. And if that's the reasoning, if that's the justification, if that's the truth, well, people got to get fired now, right? Your human shield's in front of you, basically. People think that that's Ryan Grigson. If I'm the Wills, we're going to find out during the audit session because the drafts need to turn around. But the drafts need to turn around.
Hey, real quick thing, just to put a bow on that. Do you? Because I think there's always a tug of war between the front office, and oftentimes the coach is very involved, or coordinators in also having an opinion on who should be drafted. But do the Vikings have an issue with identifying talent in the draft by round, or are they underdeveloping the talent that they've drafted? You have to pick one or the other more so than the other.
The first one, for instance, you guys know in April I gave their draft a D. I gave them the lowest grade in my industry, and of course I liked the draft the year before that because of the top guy that they took. But a couple of the years before that, I also gave the Vikings very low grades coming out of the draft. So I'm talking about in the moment, not sort of in hindsight. And the big reason for that was what I saw to be pulling guys up the board. The Donovan Jackson pick this year, I defended that because of the circumstance, and I stand behind that. But you started to see the reaches after that. Ty Felton on my board was a mid to late 5th round pick. I think the consensus was right around there that he, 5th round pick kind of a thing. And then the couple guys they got, was it late 6th, early 7th, King and Bartholomew. To me, those seemed like airmail picks when it happened. I mentioned this on the show the week after, but an NFL coach I had talked to on the phone the week after the draft said the free agent linebacker they signed, Austin Keys, is better than the one they drafted. And shout out to that guy because he bullseyed that one. But yeah, to me, the issue is pulling guys up the board. And then maybe this is where some friction comes in because you make those decisions. You're pulling some of these guys up, and then you're saying to the coaching staff, well, Ty Felton, late 3rd round pick, so now you need to develop him into at least that, if not a guy that should have gone in the 2nd round. And if I'm the coaching staff, I'm like, bro, that's a 5th round prospect. Like, can you draft us more talented players? Could we have traded up a slot or two to get either Jared Wilson, who would have been playing a heck of a lot of games for us this year, or Xavier Watts, who would be one of our better defenders this year? Can we do something?
Yeah.
Here's my interpretation of what is transpiring right now, too. I think we have 2 bins, okay? I think we have the O'Connell bin, which is his players. I think at the end of the day, with McCarthy, you're going to have to be patient. You got to see. You got to get him to play. You got to see. I think Kevin O'Connell's perfectly safe. Kevin O'Connell's in zero jeopardy. Kwesi, I don't know about, and here's why. I don't think that your idea of a Wilf audit
yep,
is surprising, and I actually think it'll happen.
Yeah.
And I don't only think it will happen, but we can sit here now on what? Late October, and we can say, well, it's funny because we all thought that those moves in March were great, and we were wrong about that. The Vikings were wrong.
The free agent ones, yes.
Yeah, the free agent ones. So we all thought those moves were great, and we were wrong about that, and I'm surprised by that. The Wills are going to say, this is what you told us would work. Yeah. They're not going to say, boy, we were on board too. They employ you to make the right moves. But furthermore, then where that leads to the audit is, okay, why did we have to make those moves? We had to make those moves because your drafts weren't good. And, the comp pick game is great. Yes. But Rob Brzezinski can play that by himself. You don't need Kwesi to play the comp pick game. If you decide the comp pick game is the way to go, I can get you a very smart person that can play that game. And you can defend Kwesi all you want, but if he's listening to the wrong people, if he's allowing too many chefs, if Keenan McCardle's saying, I love Ty Felton, and you're like, okay, I'll take Ty Felton, 3rd round, and Thor's like, hey, he was a 5th round pick, then your process is fundamentally very, very flawed. And that's where I think Kwesi could be in trouble, because it's awesome that you're going to have a bunch of picks, but if you have a guy that listens to the wrong people and is not truly a football guy, do you want him making those picks? So I think there's 2 things here. One is the patience with McCarthy. O'Connell, perfectly safe. But I do not sense in any way, shape, or form that right now Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi are tied, are married. And so this would not be, if you fire one, they're both gone. This would be very much, I think Kwesi could be in serious jeopardy because of how badly this whole thing has backfired. Whether that's fair or not, if you're the owner, you're going to be looking for a scapegoat.
That's 100%. And the timeline on Kwesi, and we agree, timeline on Kwesi is tick, tick, tick faster than O'Connell, right? But I think that this offseason, you're going to get the, if the season goes south now, right, against the NFL's best strength of schedule, you're heading into that stretch 3 and 4. If this thing goes south and you finish 6-11, you finish up, I think 7-10 right now. It's between those two would be the, what the systems that project out with the win expectancies. I think it's 7 right now. If you get that, you got to do the audit, and you have to offer a couple sacrificial lambs. The human shield guys, you're going to have to do something, and then come up with the better plan with the will. So these guys we ain't going to listen to anymore or whatever. Hopefully you refine the process, but the timeline on Kwesi, I would think, would be to the end of next season, right? And I think that's where if things don't turn around, that's where his time would be coming. And I think that's fair. But yeah, he's going to get another draft, and this time he does have ammunition. Whether that was Brzezinski, whether that was him, they do have the draft picks, and they might be picking high depending on how the end of this season goes. So this will be a crucial draft coming up. And let's get to that audit, guys.
Yeah, let's there's man, this is going to be such a juicy discussion about the future of how, because you're going to have to make a decision on who do you want and what do you want your draft process to look like if you don't believe in it the last few years going into 2026. So that's going to be a theme for the next few months. I want to go back here in a second to Kevin O'Connell, the quarterback whisperer, and I think a valid question that lingers as we re-enter the JJ McCarthy era here in just a second, but those drafts tend to make me sick to my stomach once in a while, Judd. And thanks to Mingy Digestive Health, you don't have to suffer digestive concerns or try to tough them out on your own. In all seriousness, it's kind of a full circle moment to be talking about Mingy here on Purple Daily, because when I was like 11 or 12 years old, I started going to Mingy. And I had stomach issues that were kind of just unknown. Turns out I had acid reflux and GERD, and I've had scopes over the years. I've been on different medications, but Mingy has really helped me over multiple decades, more so in my teens and then 20s, because once I went through like 10, 12 years off and on of just different discussions, it all kind of clicked, and thanks to Mingy, I now have the blueprint and the map that I need to avoid embarrassing situations, having to monitor where bathrooms are, exit strategy. I'd like walk into rooms and be like, all right, okay, if something happens with my stomach here, what's the out here? What's the exit strategy? So don't let digestive issues sideline you. Get expert coaching from Mingy Digestive Health. Schedule a visit at Mingy.com. That's MNGI.com. MNGI.com. You might Butcher and the Boar. I've learned, for instance, what I can and can't get into at Butcher and the Boar, and what triggers some of my symptoms, Judd.
Oh, man, and you are talking about a place, you're talking about a meal that is fit for a king. You're talking about a place, if it's a birthday party, anniversary, a celebration, or just a date night. Butcher and the Boar, absolutely fantastic. North Loop, so if you're going to like a Wolves game, stop by before or after and get a meal that you're going to be talking about more than the basketball game, because it's that good. Phil and I were there about a month and a half ago, and I cannot tell you not only how delicious it was, but the craft cocktails, the beer list, the service, all of it was top notch. So make sure that your next big night out is spent at Butcher and the Boar, finding out what Phil and Judd did, which is, it is awesome.
So good. Yeah, Judd, you got your Roku hat on today, supporting the official sports viewing TV of Purple Daily. I can tell you the Mackeys have 3 Roku TVs in the house, and it's again, like a couple nights ago. I love the way that they curate options for you. So 3 little boxes on the top of the home screen, and one was like the World Series game again, okay, and then the other 2. One of them was which 90s sitcom was it? Like Full House or something, right in my wheelhouse. And then a horror movie as the third option. So they understand old Macadac and what he might be interested in watching, and they can help you find what platform each sporting event is on. And then there's the Roku channel with tons of free TV channels, hit series, documentaries, movies, etc. Better TV for everyone with Roku. America's #1 streaming platform. Go to Roku.com to learn more, or shop at a retailer near you. So the quarterback whisperer mantra that we've been talking about for years and years. Kevin O'Connell, the work that he did with Kirk Cousins, became this fourth quarter comeback master. And it's funny because some of the numbers looked a little down across Kirk, but like the high leverage moments and the way Kirk even talked about processing and hunting for big plays down the field. But then there was Sam Darnold and a little bit of Daniel Jones coming in and getting a rub, as he said. Matthew Stafford in L.A. with Sean McVay working together to lead the Rams to a Super Bowl. A lot of experienced quarterbacks that he has helped to elevate. Not as many examples of completely young entering the league raw. You got to mold them from scratch. Examples of success for Kevin O'Connell. Does that concern you guys at all that most of his quarterback whisperer resume is quarterbacks that already kind of speak the language? They've been through the 101 classes before. Does he need a more advanced, older quarterback who's been in the league for a while? Or can he do it with JJ McCarthy, who's one of the youngest starting quarterbacks in the NFL? Thor.
If he can't develop a top 10 quarterback, he can't call him a quarterback whisperer anymore. Presiding over offenses of quarterbacks who have been developed elsewhere, with the best receiver in football and a really good number 2 and all awesome left tackle, etc. You got to develop your own guy. To me, that's we'll see that one through. But yeah, he has to prove he hadn't done it before. So I mean, this is got to see it now.
Wow, this is a loaded question because I've got a bunch of thoughts, including Sean McVay, who, of course, O'Connell comes from his tree, and McVay is considered a great offensive mind, went out and got Matthew Stafford to win a Super Bowl because he inherited Jared Goff and basically decided, I'm going to abort mission. And it's interesting that Jared Goff has become a very good quarterback for Detroit when we all assumed, aside from Phil, that he was a lost cause, okay? I would say I'm not concerned yet. I'm very intrigued. I am very intrigued because I do think that at the end of the day, on the O'Connell coaching tombstone, not his tombstone, but the coaching tombstone, this will be at the top of it. I honestly think that because you know what? You got Kirk and you improved him, and that's great. You got Darnold and you took him from this woebegone but sort of experienced QB and improved him a lot. And he gets credit for some Daniel Jones improvement. Not all of it, but some of it. But this is the most important thing he's going to do. I don't, if he gets fired in a year or in 15 years, I think that this will be the most important thing because can you take a quarterback who, look, has talent, he's young, 22, can you take him and make him not a quarterback that can win for 2 years, but a quarterback that could potentially win for 10 years? And this is a step that he has not done before. This is a step that his mentor has not done, correct? As a head coach, at least. So nothing will be more important than finding out, which again gets back to the play calling. Because I don't think Wednesday through Friday there's a problem, or in training camp. I think Kevin O'Connell has good intentions there, and I think he does a good job. But when it's play calling time, and when you're faced with a play call that you want to make because, damn it, this is what you believe will work, and you look at your quarterback, do you say, you know what, at this point in time, like in 2 years, yeah, I'm doing it. Right now, it's not the best time. Or do you say, screw it, I'm doing it? So I can't harp enough on the fact that I keep coming back to in-game decisions and how, because if we put this all on the kid, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to say, well, JJ McCarthy has to make that work. That's not how sports work. you got to adapt. So can Kevin O'Connell, can the cherry on top of the McCarthy development plan being, you know what, in game, Kevin, you did right by the kid, and because of that, you ultimately got the results that we all expected to see?
Yeah, I think there's guys that are good play callers, and then there's guys that are good at developing. And you have very few in the NFL, young quarterbacks, very few in the NFL that do both. Andy Reid would be a great example, Donovan McNabb, and then Pat Mahomes, of course, more famously and recently with the Chiefs. But yeah, it's a different thing, right? This way, developing the quarterback and sort of building it up, and then how do you want him to look, and what do you want him, what tweaks do you want to make to his game, for your system or the way that you do things. It is necessary here. The Minnesota Vikings are not going to win a Super Bowl with if they have to give an enormous amount of the cap now to a quarterback. You already see what the rest of the roster looks like, and that's when you don't have to pay the quarterback position anything. And the rest of the roster is in the state that it is in now. Hopefully McCarthy, and again, obviously I believe, is the answer at quarterback. And then you can go about fixing sort of the rest of the roster. But the Vikings' surest path to getting to the Super Bowl and then winning their first one, it's having the effective quarterback on the rookie contract and then augmenting the rest of the roster. Can they get there in the time that they have left here? You got 3 years left of McCarthy on that rookie contract. We'll have to see there. But yeah, whatever was behind the talk with O'Connell and the seeming frustration, and instead of giving injury updates, seeming to sort of be shooting arrows at the kid for that month for things that he gave permission for and this sort of stuff. It's like, got to get on board with developing him now. And hopefully those two guys can come together too. I had criticisms the first couple games. They were not using McCarthy's mobility enough. So I thought it was interesting that became a talking point, over the past 10 days or so. And McCarthy, in his comments, they gave him the Monday practice to see, I'm talking last week ahead of the Chargers game, to see if he was 100%, if he could go. And I think his comment was that his foot, that in the pocket, I think this stuff was fine, but it was like the sort of unexpected movements, and he said that his foot felt like it was in concrete or whatever. But now you got him back healthy, and O'Connell, we got to do something here. This is the future, right? So you have to coach him up, and that's just what it is.
Well, the biggest difference, in addition to just being healthy and the ankle being better than it was the second half of that Falcons game, the other big difference is infrastructure-wise for McCarthy. You're going to get Christian Darrisaw at left tackle. You didn't in the first two games. You're going to get Jordan Addison as a secondary pass-catching option, and you didn't have that either. Now, you do lose one of the best run-blocking tight ends in the league in Josh Oliver, who's unlikely to play in this game. And then whatever value and however many snaps C.J. Ham, he's likely out. So some of your bigger personnel package guys that you would use to maybe ignite the running game, which has been stagnant, you're going to be without those. So with that said, you got Darrisaw in, you got Addison in, everything we talked about. What do you want to see play calling wise and just offensive system wise in this game against the Lions? Either that should be different than it was the first couple games, or should be tweaked?
There's going to be like this inclination of like, oh, the kid's coming back, and now you're facing the best team in the division on the road, and them are the Packers, but the Lions on the road, the longtime bully there. Let's get back to the run game and let's play conservative and all this sort of stuff. If you stand in a phone booth with the Lions, they're going to knock you out. I would play against type here. The Lions do not have a ton of tape on McCarthy healthy. He's played the, 6+ healthy quarters, right? Between the Bears game and then the first half plus against the Falcons. And the Lions, their worst thing, it's their cornerback room, right? They have multiple injuries there. Terrion Arnold has been a liability. Amick Robertson, I bet Justin Jefferson cannot wait to get another crack at Amick Robertson, because there was the game last year where Amick Robertson, they switched him to put him on Jefferson, but they gave him bracket help the whole time. And wrote double teams the entire time. And then Amick Robertson, after the game, wanted to take credit for Jefferson's sort of meager stat line in that one. The Vikings receivers are going to beat the Lions cornerbacks here. I would attack them. That's what I would do. And I'm not talking an air raid, but I think there's an expectation of, let's, run. And it's like, I don't know if that's the path to the Vikings winning this game. The Vikings don't have a great percentage shot heading in to win it anyway. Try to ambush them with the guy that they don't have film on, attacking the worst thing of the other team. That's how I would do it.
I'd like to see some slants. I'd like to see some quick actions.
Yes, yes.
I think the problem is if you try to attack them deep, which O'Connell would love, I think part of the problem is Aiden Hutchinson. And I do not want to expose McCarthy to a beatdown. I don't want him on his back a ton if possible. Aaron Jones is back. You know what? He can catch the ball.
Yeah.
We saw that against the Bears. That was a great pass. Those two in training camp, great chemistry. So I think there's ways to work this, and much to Jefferson's chagrin too, though, I think that this could be based on what we saw through training camp and the fact that when he plays has been damn good. A Jordan Addison receiving game. Some
Agreed. Short
stuff, some slants again, some very against type things that O'Connell will design but doesn't like to call. Like, that's the thing is, I think O'Connell, as far as it play, I think we get confused sometimes between play calling and play design. I think O'Connell's play designs are really good and creative. I think when he calls for some things is probably not great. And yes, I want the Vikings to win, but hear me out again. I also think you are in charge. The most important thing that you can do is develop McCarthy, and sometimes your play calls might go against what you think will win the game right then and there. And it's again, we are, as we've been doing since March, boys, we're threading needles here for the Vikings. We're threading needles because what I'm saying is very difficult, and it's going to go against what O'Connell wants. But I do think at the end of the day, the development of JJ McCarthy right now, for me, and I would guess Thor would agree, but perhaps not. The development of JJ McCarthy for the remainder of this season is number one on my agenda.
Oh, easily. Yeah. I mean, the next couple of years, the foreseeable short-term future of the franchise is dependent on that. Obviously, everything changes if that doesn't click there. But yeah, your point's well taken there. The deep drops in the first game, we have to see what the offensive line looks like right now. So maybe some of these, how do we toggle the aggression of it? Like, it's probably a bit dependent on, not a bit dependent, it's totally dependent on the status of Darrison O'Neal. How many snaps are you going to give from them? Are either of them going to be out? But yeah, the quicker passes, we would like that. Let's get a better marriage of 3, 5, 7, right? With that. But yeah, I would lean more into the pass game right from the get, I think, than most in the public would assume in this situation.
Yeah. We do have some Ask Thor Anything questions that we can get to here before we finish out this episode. Thor actually sent me a picture of his, I think there was only a little bit left of his Pendleton whiskey from the weekend watching football. This is one
I've spent some time with Mr. Pendleton this past week.
And not Terry Pendleton, Mr. Pendleton.
Yeah. Wow, early
91
90s baseball. Let's go.
Yeah.
This is the sealed. I might keep this one sealed. This is the for show only. For work and for
some
play
Friday
purposes.
night you won't. Some Friday night you're gonna be like, what the hell?
There's more where this came from. But Pendleton whiskey. This is the whiskey you want for your Vikings game days. Pendleton is a proud partner of the Minnesota Vikings, and they got these 10-year stadium anniversary bottles of their glorious whiskey here. That you could go into any liquor store in the Twin Cities and just ask about Pendleton whiskey. You probably see it in a lot of them. Smooth enough to sip after a win, bold enough to remind you of what it took to get there. It's not just poured; it's earned. Pendleton whiskey, just like Minnesota. Nothing's really given. Not the yards, not the wins, not the respect, not the weather. You earn it. So whether you're celebrating a fun victory on Sunday or holding your head high after a hard-fought loss, Pendleton Whiskey 2025, Pendleton Distillers, Proximo Spirits.
The code Purple Daily to unlock a special offer.
And then one more shout-out here. So Pepsi and Buffalo Wild Wings, close friends of the Minnesota Vikings. Buffalo Wild Wings, the preferred sports bar of the Vikings, and Pepsi's the official beverage of the Vikings, and they're teaming up to give you access to these Justin Jefferson souvenir cups right here. You go into any Buffalo Wild Wings in the Twin Cities, you order 12 wings, any style, and a Pepsi, and you get this cup. There's a QR code on the side of this cup. You scan it, and you can enter to win Victor's very own Polaris Ranger 1000. Supplies are limited on these cups, so head to the nearest Buffalo Wild Wings, maybe for some lunch, maybe for some football viewing. Order 12 wings, any style, and a Pepsi. You get this cup, and you can maybe win that glorious Polaris Ranger 1000 from Victor. All right, ask Thor anything here. We like to field some. These usually turn into just like deep dive draft questions. So this one's from Ryan Schmidt, who says, I hope this message finds you in a reckless speculation mood. Always.
Reckless
Okay.
speculation.
I'd like to ask Thor, with the upcoming draft, what does the wide receiver class look like if the Vikings decide to trade Jordan Addison?
The wide receiver class looks a lot better now than it did in the preseason. We thought maybe this would be another bad down receiving class, and some of the position groups that this season, you think about the 2026 draft, are down from what we thought over the summer. Quarterback would be a good example of that. This is not a great year to need a quarterback, but the receiver class is one that's probably improved the most from our perception over the summer until now. The Vikings won't have access to the top one, Jordan Tyson, who's probably going to be a top 7-8 type pick. But after that, you have a small handful of other guys that I think have a real shot at round one. Denzel Boston from Washington is a big-bodied boundary receiver, 6'3", 210, mid 4.4s 40. I comp him to Drake London. Very kind of similarities in their games. Mackay Lemon from USC is a pure slot, but he's real good. And he has started to get comps to Emeka Egbuka. And that one would be interesting. The Vikings, when they drafted Jefferson, he had played slot at LSU, right inside of Jamar Chase on that dominant offense. And then Jordan Addison had played plenty of slot in college as well. And obviously those guys, particularly the 12 personnel, but it's boundary. If you trade Addison, would you be comfortable taking a guy that we've basically seen predominantly in the slot and probably needs to play the slot at the next level too? Mackay Lemon's 5'10", 190, but he's electric, 4.3 speed. The agility's ridiculous. So yeah, big time movement guy. And then a couple other names I would toss out. Two other first round possibilities. Carnell Tate from Ohio State. You don't want to go too apocryphal, but there's aspects of his game that remind me of a Ohio State receiver from the 1980s that Vikings fans are familiar with. The frame, the wingspan, the hands, the ability to navigate the sidelines and keep his feet in, the body control. Carnell Tate has very surface level, I'll say, but similarities to Chris Carter. Of course, the Buckeye great. And Carnell Tate will be, he's going to go for a little bit of a discount compared to some of those guys that I just said, because I don't think he's going to test quite as well, but he's just so dang smooth. And then one other one I wanted to toss out is Jeremy Bernard from Alabama, was a guy that started at Washington, actually played above Denzel Boston on the team 2 years ago that made the national title game, lost to McCarthy. But they were behind the three thoroughbred receivers that they had there at the time, Roma Dunze and Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan. And Bernard was the wide receiver 4 on that team. But anyhow, he followed Kalen DeBoer to Alabama. And Jeremy Bernard's one of those guys that probably you put him more in the bucket of like the versatility that we have seen from Jefferson, the versatility that we've seen from Addison, where it's literally interchangeable. You play him inside, you can play him outside, do all these different things with him. They manufacture him touches. Jeremy Bernard at Alabama, they do the end arounds. They get him involved as a runner. So it's a guy that a creative offensive staff is going to take great interest in because of his ability to play all these roles and exploit mismatches. So Jeremy Bernard would be the other one I toss up. But it's a solid wide receiver class. But the last thing I'll say about that, just because of the setup of the question of trading Addison, I wouldn't do that this offseason. I would put a pin in that one until the offseason after that. Because that's the year when a lot of times you see the receivers traded on their rookie deal, and it happens to coincide with what I believe will be one of the great wide receiver NFL draft classes that we've ever seen. This one coming up here, I think it's a solid wide receiver group. The one after that is going to be epic. That's when Jeremiah Smith is coming to the NFL. That's when Ryan Williams from Alabama, Cam Coleman. That recruiting class 2 years ago, receivers, was absolutely amazing. And those guys have not only lived up to the billing, they've arguably exceeded it. So if I'm the Vikings and sort of thinking about this, I play it through with Addison for one more year, see where we're at. If I'm going to trade him, it's going to be the offseason after this coming one to try to get a first-round pick into that amazing receiver class. Yeah.
Makes sense. I like your line of thinking. I think tight end's going to be a sneaky one, too, because even though they can roll over some cap, they got to make a decision on a big T.J. Hockenson cap number, and they can start to save some money by just saying goodbye. But they will need someone who can at least be a target. But you can, dude, you can find Tucker Krafts in the third. The Packers found Tucker Kraft. He was the second tight end they drafted that year, right?
For sure.
In the third round. So there's got to be some guys.
Fannin was in the third round this year. You know, I mean, like you
Arande Gadsden was
fifth round. Fifth or sixth. Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's always trippy when you see. I was like, Arande Gadsden. The hell, that guy's been around for like 20 years. It's crazy. When you start to see the kids of the players that you were taking in fantasy football like 20 years ago, it makes you feel pretty old.
I wonder too, you know, depending on, you know, just talking about the draft and then the rest of this season and you know, like molding the short term with the long term, with the trade deadline coming up so quick, and the results of Sunday pending, if the Vikings lose that game, you know, I'm curious to see if Kwesi will have a sort of tact of anything not nailed down, the veterans on the last year of their deal or guys that are easy to trade without cap ramifications in the future seasons that they don't see as big a part of plans for the future if they'll try to get draft equity from those guys. If you fall to 3 and 5, I mean, you have to do it selectively. Of course, you can't take anything more away from the offensive line with the state it's in, with what you're trying to do with the development of your young quarterback. But there's a couple of defenders there that I could do without never seeing them again. Apologies to Mr. Hargrave. Apologies to Mr. Pace. A couple of those guys. Anyone wants to call me, the phone lines are open. I'm listening to offers. If they lose on Sunday, right? I mean, things obviously change if they can spring that upset.
Did you guys see that the Denver Broncos yesterday signed 41-year-old Mercedes Lewis, a tight end?
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm calling my old friend George Payton and saying, T.J. Hawkinson's not, I mean, he's not young, but he's not that old.
Yeah, I mean, T.J. Hawkinson's a guy that would greatly help out a contender, and I know that Viking fans are frustrated with him, justifiably so, but it's a circumstantial thing, as we all know, because of all the chipping that T.J. Hawkinson has been asked to do this year that delays his ability to get out into his routes. And so then when you throw it to him, it's inevitably within 6-7 yards of the line of scrimmage. He does not have the time after chipping to get downfield, especially when Justin School is about to give up another sack. T.J. Hawkinson would be more valuable to a contender, obviously. So could you extract something out of that? You know, again, in a scenario where you lose, that'll be interesting to watch for next week.
Plus, I think he might be ideal in the Sean Payton, Bo Nix system.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Sean Payton talks all the time about the Joker, you know, and getting the Joker in the offense. I think that would be, I think they would be interested.
The Joker.
Boy, to watch Vikings fans' heads pop off their bodies if Hawkinson goes to a different team and because he's not being left in to chip, explodes offensively. That'll be something that we'll see. So
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Love it.
But it makes sense. All right, Thor Nystrom from FantasyLife.com. It's a very happy Thorsday here on Purple Daily. And don't forget, come hang out with us at Mystic Lake Hop House, open to the public for a watch party on Sunday. You can even book a hotel, stay overnight, either going into Sunday or into Monday if you want to make it a 3-day weekend. And stick around after the game, too, for Vikings Vent Line, which will also be live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See ya.